folks. Welcome into another edition of the Major League Baseball Show right here on SportsBookReview.com. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Jason Radowitz. And what a night it was, Jason. And I got to say, in Major League Baseball, sometimes the good and bad thing is there's no time limit, and you have to use your full amount of outs because we saw some rallies, and I know those rallies, Jason, filled your pocket.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. We had first the Reds, they got destroyed in the first couple innings, and you were right on that game with the Cubs scoring, 6 or 7 runs in that first couple innings. And then we're sitting here like Lester having a no-hitter through 5 innings. What's going on here? This isn't what our stats showed us. But at the end of the day, bullpens came in. Lester did not go the distance, only went 5 innings. And then the bullpen came in. Reds, dominated that game. Also had the Brewers game. They were down 5-1 in the ninth inning, came back 5-5. We actually saw no runs in the 10th inning, even with guys on second base to start the 10th inning. Finally, the Brewers scored in the 11th inning and got the win with Phelps, who pitched really well for the Brewers. So, yeah, crazy night, lots of fun. Probably one of the more fun nights you'll have in the MLB this season.
No, you're right. And you talk about the sweats because, again, we are gamblers here. And it's funny because we both won money, but we came from opposite directions. I'm out walking the dog by the second inning, and I see you on Twitter there going, can we get 1 run here? Can we get 2 runs here? What's going to happen? And before you know it, those games go over. And that's the great thing about Major League Baseball. Nobody's running at the clock at the end of the game, Jason. You have to use all those outs, and it certainly was profitable for us yesterday. And I know a lot of people checking in on the chat box. Thanks for tuning in, guys. You know the drill. You know what to do. There's a subscribe button right below. It's red. Push that subscribe button each and every time Jason and I go live for Major League Baseball Monday through Friday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Sportsbook Review. You can certainly get in, and always check out SBRpicks.com as well. And we do use SBRodds.com to go through these games. We'll get a nice little sprint here. We'll open it up to the chat box and let it rip and have some fun. Let's not waste any more time here, Jason. Let's get after this Major League Baseball card. 951, 952. We'll keep it in rotation. Even though there is a day game, we will eventually hit that. Roark versus Voth today. Heavy betting action coming in on the home team today, the Washington Nationals. Minus 126, they open up, minus 135. And it looks like they're staying in that range despite getting about 7 out of every 10 tickets lining up. We also see a heavy over-under in this one, but more interesting, some of the opposites that we've seen in the past couple of days. This one opens up at 10.5, Jason. Now we're sitting at 10, so a little bit of a downtrend here in Washington.
Yeah, I agree with that trend. I'm actually have an official play on this game under 5.5 in the first 5, which I got at minus 105. I saw a couple of books had it at like minus 120. You got it at minus 105, which was a no-brainer for me. Tanner Roark on the mound for the Blue Jays going up against his former team, the Washington Nationals. Should do really well against them. He's destroyed the Nationals lineup in the past. They're hitting just 103 against him with a 157 OBP for their career combined. So, yeah, Roark going up against his former team. He struggled against lefties last season, 289 average, but look at the Nationals lineup. There's only about maybe 2 or 3 lefties in that lineup. I didn't look at the lineup if it's out yet, but you'd assume there's only around 2 to 3 lefties in that lineup against Roark. And then you look at, on the other hand, the Nationals. You got Austin Voth on the mound. He started just 8 games last season, had an ERA of 3.33 at home. He dominated righties with a .165 batting average through 79 plate appearances last season. The righties in the lineup include Guerrero, Grichuk, Hernandez, and I'm not sure if Bichette's playing. I would assume he's not playing due to his injury, but if he is, he's a righty as well. And Voth, he pitched well against righties. So I do like the under 5.5 in the first 5 in this game. I'd also lean towards the Blue Jays. I think Roark is the better starter in this matchup. And I think it's kind of crazy to see the Blue Jays against a Nationals team that really hasn't looked great offensively throughout the entire season so far. Obviously, they played the Yankees, whatever, earlier, but offensively, they haven't looked great. I like the Blue Jays plus 130. I think that's a steal. I know it's been going up a little bit. It was Blue Jays around plus like 110 to open up. Now it's at plus 130. So I would easily look at the Blue Jays as an upset pick too.
Yeah, we were sneaking around the chicken coop the past couple of days also with that Blue Jays first 5 as we see it out here. Patty's 1996 says Blue Jays first 5 with a question mark, guys. And also, how about this one? Deontay Wayans. I set my alarm to this show. Let's cash some ticket, people. It's been nice. We've opened up red hot here, and it's a lot of fun doing it. Now, looking at this game also, Jason, between the Jays and the Nationals, rain and possible high humidity in this game. Does that affect you at any time? Because sometimes when I look at a game and I'm saying, like, if Kershaw's on the mound, if Scherzer's on the mound, I look at it a little bit deeper. But these two pitchers, look, if they get replaced, it's not a big deal as if one of the aces get replaced in this game, or if they only last 2 to 3 innings and they got to pull the tarp out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think Austin Voth's going to be going very deep in this game. Rourke probably go 5. If there's rain, obviously it gets stopped. They'll go to the bullpens, but I don't really think that affects much. Uh, yeah, both these offenses didn't look too great early on. The Blue Jays are a young team. They're going to lose out on Bo Bichette now. Yeah, I think I when I was looking for this under in the first 5, I thought it would be at 4.5. So seeing it at 5.5 really made me excited, especially at minus 105. So it was no brainer for me. I think you got that extra run, which is pretty interesting so far in my couple first 5 games. I've had my starters score just 0 or have just allowed just 0 runs and 1 run. So yeah, having an extra run will definitely benefit in the long run.
Yeah, no question. Plus money there on Toronto. We'll see how that pulls out. Looking at the chat box here, Abel Alvarez has been in here very prominent here, Jason, for the past couple of days. I've been telling people Blue Jays first 5 since last Friday, and cater to you by Chef Jeff. Sometimes it's hard to read these names here. Shout out to you guys. Great show. We'll keep it ripping and running here. Let's get to game number 2 on the list, 9:55, 9:56, Atlanta and Tampa Bay. And boy, when we thought maybe a little bit of a lag, as you called it, Jason, going down to Tampa Bay yesterday, certainly showed up an easy win for the Rays. And if we take a look today, Wright and Chirinos on the mound. It opened up at minus 133 to minus 145 offshore at SBRodds.com. Now sitting in the range, as long as you're price shopping out here, checking around, you can get minus 135. You can get minus 140, minus 148 even at some books. So always shop around to get the best price available. If we take a look at Wright, only 19 innings last year pitched, Jason. Horrible. 8.69 ERA, 5.44 xFIP. If we take a look at Chirinos, a 3.85 ERA with a 4.10 xFIP. More of the same today? The bats stay alive? Or does this look like one of those games where Atlanta needs to bounce back in this spot here, Jason?
Yeah, it's an interesting game. Look, Kyle Wright, like you said, he was awful last season, 0-3 with an 8.69 ERA, walked 13 batters in 19.2 innings. So, yeah, that stands out. He had an FIP of 6.16, which is atrocious. Yeah, Wright was not good. And this guy will struggle this season as well. We look at his numbers. He has a lot of hard contact. His Sierra's high. There's a lot to dislike about Wright. But again, the Rays offense looked so good last night. Can they continue to perform such a a high amount of runs in this game? I don't know for sure. I think when we talk about the MLB, we see a lot of times when a team has a really big offensive output, they don't show that much in the next game, which kind of concerns me just a little bit. But looking at the pitching matchup, it's an easy Rays victory here. So yeah, I would lean towards the Rays on the money line and look at over 8.5 with Wright on the mound. I do think the Rays could score 5 runs or above. So I would look at the Rays over on their team total, which is 4.5. I think that's a good opportunity right there. But yeah, again, this is a tough one for sure. There's a lot of other great games on the slate that I'd rather choose from.
7 minutes into the show, Jason, we've got 185 people live watching in the chat box. We do thank you for that. And also interesting topic that I always bring up when you poke fun at those Tampa Bay Rays. I got to figure, Jason, they probably like playing in the empty facility because those teams, the Atlanta Braves or teams from the Southeast or even the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox, when they come to town, they're always outnumbered in the stands. It's a home game, so maybe it's going to help them to play a little bit better. No fans at all down in the Trop. We'll see what takes place today between Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Another game that I like, me and Jason picked up some good coin on last night, 9:57, 9:58, the Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds. Mills versus Mailey today. About 7 out of 10 tickets looks like so far coming in on the hometown Reds in this game. Opened up at around a pick'em, still staying at a pick'em, but if we take a look at the total here, it's no surprise to me, Jason. Opens up at 10. A lot of outlets are showing 10.5. Both of these lineups can get after it, as you've seen yesterday. Even though one team getting no hit through 5 or 6 innings can still put up a good amount of runs. I see some runs in this one, and when we talk about some best bets at the end of the show, got my eye on this game, Jason. How about you?
Yeah, again, this is the NL Central seems like it's really hard to figure out so far. Look, we saw the Pirates and Brewers game yesterday, also the Cubs Reds game, which was just an interesting one to say the least. Yeah, Alec Mills only started 4 games last season, 9 games on the season for him. Had a 2.75 ERA and an FIP of 4.19. Had a 3.10 ERA on the road in 2 starts and 5 games pitched, 23 strikeouts and 8 walks in 20.1 innings on the road. He faced the Reds 3 times last season, 12 innings pitched, allowed just 10 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 home runs, struck out 12 while walking 4. If you look at the Reds and their numbers against Mills, they have just 6 hits and 30 at bats. So that's what kind of scares me when we're talking about this Reds offense. Of course, the Reds are going to have to, gang up on the bullpen once the bullpens come in for the Cubs. We know that the Cubs are not a great bullpen. I would probably rank them as like, maybe like a 20th best bullpen in 30 teams in the MLB. So yeah, that concerns me when it comes to the Reds offense, especially now that they do have some guys out right now that can't perform due to COVID or other illnesses. Meanwhile, Maley of the Reds was brutal at home, 2-4 with a 5.66 ERA through 10 games. Also had a 5.73 ERA in two starts versus the Cubs last season. He allowed 1.74 home runs per 9 innings last season as well. So for me, I think the Cubs would be the way to go here. I saw them at around plus 104. Obviously, you said it was a pick 'em. So if you get the Cubs at plus money, I don't see why you shouldn't take that. For me, it's just a lean. But I do think the Cubs will come out on this one. I also do like the over 10 in this matchup. With how we saw the offenses perform yesterday, I think it will be the same tomorrow, just due to having bullpens probably going in the last 5 innings for each team.
Yeah, similar setups here, Jason, too, because both of these, just looking at offshore with 5 dimes, 4.5, you're going to pay a little bit of juice to get those. But again, lines up right with that 10. And as long as the thing I always like to look at as well is, I know some people say, if we're going to take the Dodgers as a team total and they're, at minus 200, minus 250, well, maybe the other team doesn't push them and they only score like 1, 2, or 3 runs where the Dodgers put it in cruise control. I always like these games that we take a look at where both lineups can put up runs. So when you saw last night, just because the Cubs got out to that 5, 6, 7-0 lead, you knew they had the ability to come back and especially chase and get after it. So those are nice, because if a game is 2-0 going in the 7th inning, hey, let's bunt, let's be safe, let's move the runners. But when you're down big and you still say, you know what, we need at least 4 or 5 runs to get back in this game, swinging for the fences, driving balls in the gap, that's exactly what we saw last night. An exciting finish to the game. Both of us, as I said, cashed in and certainly lived up to the hype. Going to take a look at the next game here. This was a rainout game, 961-962. The White Sox and the Indians, Rodon, the lefty, versus Plutko on the mound today. If we look at the opening numbers here, minus 115, minus 116, minus 117 across the board at SBRodds.com. But now we're seeing 131s, 125s, and still 115. So again, the importance of shopping around, getting the best line is always important in this one. If we take a look at some of the actual stats from last year, Rodon's ERA, not looking good, Jason, 5.19 with a 4.13 xFIP, and Plutko, 4.86 ERA with a 5.54 xFIP. Might we see some runs in this game, and how are you looking at this?
Yeah, this one's tough. Always when you have a doubleheader going, it's hard to decide, what players are going to play in each game and how the pitchers are going to pitch and what bullpen, what they'll do with the bullpen. So it's really hard to judge on doubleheaders, and that's why I'm going to stay away from this game. Rodon had Tommy John surgery, only had 7 games started last season. He's a high strikeout guy, 11.94 strikeouts per 9 innings. But again, like you said, 5.19 ERA. If you look at his FIP, a 3.62, but he did have trouble with hard contact. BABIP was 0.322. But that's just in 7 games, so it's a little bit of a small sample size for him. Lindor's 9-30 versus him with 2 home runs and 2 doubles, 5 RBIs. Carlos Santana 8-24 with 2 extra base hits against him as well. So the Indians can definitely put up some runs against Rodon, but Rodon is a guy, walks 4.41 batters per 9 innings, also a big strikeout guy, like I already said. So yeah, a very erratic Rodon. Will definitely put runners on base. Will definitely allow home runs. Will definitely allow different things throughout the entire game. So yeah, if you're looking at like a Rodon, maybe like strikeout total on the over, you go look at that, but then also realize that he might let up a bunch of runs in this game as well. Adam Plutko on the mound for the Indians, who had 20 games started last season, 4.86 ERA. Plutko had a 3.83 ERA at home, and he went 4-2 in 9 games started at home as well, holding batters just a 217 batting average. He struggled versus lefties, allowed 283 average with a 3.33 base percentage. Didn't face the White Sox last season, but the White Sox do hit Plutko really well with a .358 average overall combined. Every batter who's faced him outside of Jose Abreu has a hit against him already through his young career. So this game is a really tough one. I do see runs in this game, but for me, it's a stay away game.
No, I hear you on that. And also, not to just give out picks and we go over a game by game basis. There's a lot of stuff that me and Jason like to do, and we think similar on, like education on how to approach betting. And I'm the same way as you. When I take a look at a doubleheader, I automatically take a step back, and it's very rare that I even bet the first game. Maybe sometimes in the second game, because, as you say it, an extended bullpen where maybe a starter gets knocked out early in game one, then you're going to think that maybe game two, that's going to be a bullpen that might have to throw just a long guy out there just to stem the tide, or who's going to be in the lineup, and certainly who wins the first game, because nobody wants to get swept in the doubleheader, losing back-to-back games. It's always interesting the approach that certain cappers take in that one, but I'm getting the feeling from you, when I see that doubleheader, I sort of push it to the side and look at the other games, then circle back and see if we can find some value in those. How about you?
Yeah, there's plenty of other games on the slate that I'd much prefer. Again, we're talking about these two central divisions on the AL and the NL.
Yeah.
They're just so impossible to figure out right now. So I'd love to see more data in the central before I start to really dig deep in these games. Unless I see a really big edge from last year's stats, it's going to be hard for me to really dig deep and bet on these games in both central divisions. They're tough right now.
No, exactly. 969, 970. We'll keep moving. 8:10 first pitch Eastern time. How about this? Carlos Martinez and Homer Bailey. Now, normally we open up our odds book in the morning and say, ooh, Homer Bailey's on the mound? How can I fade this guy? How can I take a team total against him? There's no way he can win. But this is not your father's Homer Bailey. Why? Because he's got the bats behind him with the Twins. If we look at the opening numbers here, about 7 out of 10 tickets coming in on Minnesota. It opens up differentiating. On Pinnacle Offshore at SBRodds.com, opened up around -110. Chris at -135. We're now seeing some outlets here, Jason, cross over $1.50 as a favorite there for the Twins and Homer Bailey. Is this the spot that we look at and say, well, maybe the old Homer Bailey comes out? Because we look at just pitching statistics, Martinez, who only had 48 innings last year, but was fairly good, 3.17 ERA, 3.76 xFIP. And when we take a look at Homer Bailey, his normal self, 4.57 ERA with about a 4.3 xFIP. Is this one that we say, damn it, there's a plus money opportunity on the Cardinals and Homer Bailey's on the mound, I'm going to take that? Or are we taking a step back saying, oh, these Twins can put up 10 runs here? You never know.
Yeah, I got an official play in the Cardinals at +133. I think you can see it at +135 as well. Yeah, there's no chance I'm not taking this opportunity right here with Homer Bailey on the mound. Homer Bailey, righties hit Bailey last season with a 299 average. The Cardinals have so many right-handed bats in their lineup. In 182 at-bats for the Cardinals as a team, they've hit 336 batting average and a 377 on-base percentage versus Bailey. And we talk about Carlos Martinez. Yeah, durability issues are definitely a concern for Martinez. No, we don't know how long he's going to be able to perform in this game and throughout the entire season. Like you said, only had 48.1 innings, but it's not like he hasn't started before in the past. It's not like he hasn't had that kind of volume before. 27 opportunities to save games, 20 he got 24 of them. So yeah, I mean, he has so much potential. He's a great pitcher, he's got great stuff. Again, I don't know how long he'll be able to go. If you're nervous about that, look at the Cardinals in the first 5, of course. But looking at the Cardinals' numbers against Bailey, it's nuts to see that the Cardinals are +133. I love the Twins' offense, but the Cardinals' offense can perform well as well. They have a solid lineup. If you don't want to worry about Martinez, you can look at the Cardinals over 4.5 their team total at around -110, which seems like a great play as well. If you don't want to see Martinez, I'm gonna go with the plus money. +135 seems like a great opportunity for me to get my first underdog win of the season. So that's my official play, the Cardinals +133.
I love it. I think it makes a lot of sense also. And it's always fun because now just living in the new world of everybody gets a DH, you just get that boost because you still see the same numbers out there, 4.5, 5, 5.5 as team totals. But even when you're looking at the National League, you don't have to worry about, hey, the pitcher's going to come up. You get a full 9 batters, and it seems to be working out fairly nicely here for us. Checking out the chat box here, taking a look at some things here. Jonathan Cruz says, over team total Cardinals 4.5. I think it makes sense as well, along with Jason also. And if we take a look here, DFX Fowler says, I hate Homer Bailey, by the way, but this is the best team he's ever been on. Get some opposite Jason. Hey, look, we're here to disagree. We're here to argue. We're here to share the information. We're here to make you guys much more knowledgeable. Same thing with me and Jason. We never stop learning. Some things that pop up in the chat box, some things that we hear throughout the day. It always helps us. And it's designed here at sportsbookreview.com to make you a smarter gambler, to put more money in your pocket. And that's what we're trying to do here. How about this one? This should get some fireworks here tonight, Jason. 973, 974. It's the Dodgers. Houston. All we hear is, we haven't forgot. We haven't forgot. You have two teams that don't like each other. One dominant pitcher on the mound in Walker Buehler. And then the guy I like to call the Exxon Valdez because of how much he leaks oil usually on the mound. But looking at this odds, 6 out of 10 tickets coming in on the Dodgers. Open up at -150. We're down to -130. People are taking the Exxon Valdez on the mound with Houston. My question to you here, Jason, is we like to go through stats. I think both of these teams certainly can put up runs, but I do like Walker Buehler. I picked him. I think has a good shot at winning the Cy Young in the National League. Is this one of those games you might have to take a step back? Because what happens if both teams are warned and Walker Buehler throws at a player in the first inning and is ejected, which could be a possibility? Does that ever creep into your mind? You just say, you know what? I'm going to go into this approach as it's going to be a normal baseball game, and the numbers are what the numbers are.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. I'm going right in with the Dodgers here at -129. Walker Buehler, a guy that we talked about in our first show, who's a potential Cy Young candidate, is -129 in a game. I don't think we're going to see that again after this performance against the Astros. I know how great the Astros offense is. I know how great the Astros are. I know that there's bad blood between these two teams, but we're talking about Walker Buehler, a guy who broke out tremendously last season, went 14-4 in 30 games, 3.26 ERA, 10.61 strikeouts per 9 innings, allowed less than 1 home run per 9 innings. He was fantastic. So, yeah, Dodgers at -129 is a no-brainer for me. 8-3 on the road last season with a 3.66 ERA. And we're talking about Valdez, 5.6 walks per 9 innings, 4.98 FIP. When you have a 5 FIP, we're talking, that's awful. So 4.98 FIP. He's a big ground ball guy. So he gets 62% of the balls, ground balls. But when there are fly balls, 25.7% are home runs. That's a fourth of fly balls being home runs from Valdez. Dodgers have a lot of power. I do think they'll be able to hit a little bit off of Valdez, of course. As long as they stay patient, they'll get below in counts. They have 2-0, 3-1 counts all day. Hit the ball. The Dodgers are my official play at -129. No brainer for me. Walker Buehler at -129 is a joke.
Let's go, man. I enjoy that. If we take a look at the chat box, I think they're all in agreement with you as well. We got Patty saying the Dodgers with a big flex. VJS0710, Dodgers money line. DX Filer, first 5 Dodgers for me. DLS Cat, Dodgers. Jonathan Cruz says Dodgers versus Astros, the main event. And Sharigan Amadachu says, do not fade Donnie or you will be on the wrong side. One of my biggest fans out there on Twitter. I do appreciate you very much. And Chad Barnett says, Jason sounds excited about this game. No doubt about it. That's what we're here for, the main event tonight with these games. And it's nice that we have a side that we can sit back and relax on. How about another one? Now, we're talking about the main event, maybe to a really undercard or maybe blackout card type game. Seattle and the Angels, Sheffield and Sandoval on the mound. 6 out of 10 tickets coming in on Seattle currently. This line opened up heavy, and I guess the ticket count is looking at this game saying, whoa, -170, -180, now shifting back to -165. Because if we take a look at the stats from last year, 2 guys that didn't pitch a lot, Jason. Both of these guys under 40 innings last year. If we looked at Justice Sheffield, 5.50 ERA with a 4.68 xFIP. And then if we look at Sandoval, 5.0 ERA and a 4.02 xFIP. Not a lot of good pitching stacking up in this one. How's this one turn out?
Yeah, I got the official play over 9 in this matchup. Justice Sheffield, a 5.5 ERA. And we got Patrick Sandoval with a 5.03 ERA. Guys almost had a 5 FIP as well. Sandoval allowed lefties to hit 306 and an OBP of 390 last season. The Mariners, you look down that lineup, they have a bunch of lefties in their lineup, especially down towards the bottom of their lineup, where I think that they can do some damage for the Mariners. I think the Mariners have some great potential in the bottom of their lineup that have a bunch of lefties there in the projected lineup. And for Justice Sheffield, he had a BABIP of 371, was hit extremely hard in those games. He allowed 328 average to righties last season. The Angels, they have this one guy named Mike Trout. He's a righty with a lot of power. I like over 9 in this matchup for sure. It's an official play for me.
No, I completely agree with you that as well. I mean, if we're not going to get, power pitching to start out of the gates, and you have two teams with a little bit shaky bullpens, always like to lean on the totals and those. And again, you're getting a fair price because we're gamblers and you look at numbers overall, 9 is always decent because what do you say in your head? Just get me to 4 and I have an automatic push at that point. And then we're talking about extra innings baseball now, putting the man on second base. Very attainable number in some of these matchups. We'll keep it moving here. 940 games, a little bit on the nightcap here, 977, 978, and that is Colorado and Oakland. Colorado yet to be home, yet still on the road, going out to the Bay Area, playing a pretty good athletics team. And if you look at the odds here, a little bit of a backtrack. Opens up at -163 as Oakland is a favorite, -170. Now seeing the mid-150s, 160s, depending on where you're shopping at. And if we take a look at the over in this game, this one actually opened up 9.5 and 10s, Jason. Now we're seeing a backtrack of around 9s to 9.5s that are across the board in this one. Senzatella and Mengden. If we look at the pitching numbers, I always look at these Colorado Rocky games a little bit differently than I do others because when you have a pitcher that's pitching on the road, sometimes those numbers can be inflated because you're pitching at Coors. But that's not the case here when you break down Senzatella. Last year overall, Jason, a 6.71 ERA, a 5.12 xFIP. That is combined last year. If we just take a look at away, it's still 5.36 as an xFIP. You should have a marked difference between Coors Field and away, and it's not that case. So it looks like he should be able to get hit in this one. And Mengden, a 4.83 ERA and a 5.73 xFIP. Not a lot of good stuff coming from the two pitchers here from what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Again, I'm on the over 9.5 in this matchup. If you guys see 9, definitely take the 9. I didn't expect it to go lower, so I took the 9.5 when I saw it. So, yeah, if you see 9, you get the Mariners, Angels, and the Rockies Athletics both at 9. That seems like a really good, good shopping there. So, yeah, Senzatella had an ERA of 6.71, like you had said, but a 7.29 ERA on the road. So we're talking about not in Colorado. We're talking about on the road. Had a 7.29 ERA on the road. He walked 4.11 batters per 9 innings. Only struck out 5.49 batters per 9 innings as well. Yes, he lefties hit him at 327 average and righties hit him at a 300 average. So of course the Athletics are going to have a field day against Senzatella. But then on the other hand, you got Mengden. He held righties to a 173 average, but lefties had a 320 average. So we're talking about David Dahl, Charlie Blackmon, Daniel Murphy, McMahon. All those Rockies are lefties. Could destroy against Mengden here. Yeah, I love the over 9.5. If you get 9 as well, that's a steal in this matchup. Again, Mengden for against lefties with a 320 average and a bunch of great lefties on the Rockies team. And then also on Senzatella's side, lefties and righties are both hitting over 300 against him, and he did worse on the road last season. So over 9.5 for me.
Yeah, we'll keep a track on some of these best bets in just a couple of minutes and circle back around. But let's get to some of the games that the chat box wants to talk to here, Jason. Arthur Meade Jr., Donnie and Jason, any opinion on the Arizona Diamondbacks at the Texas Rangers? If we take a look at the pitching matchup, Merrill Kelly and Kyle Gibson of Twins fame, 6 out of 10 tickets coming in on the Texas Rangers in this one, Jason. We open up around a pick 'em, -110, -120, and it seems to be staying in that factor. You might be getting a little bit of plus money on Texas, and even some outlets out here showing a -111 on Arizona. The over-under in this one, again, an interesting thing, opens up at 9.5, now down to 9. Old Globe Life Field out at 95 degrees, hitting it all over the ballpark. A little bit different playing now. Obviously, when you get inside a dome, it's air conditioned. You don't have that hot and humidity pushing the baseball around. We'll see if some of these numbers adjust over the summer, but early indicators may be a pitcher's ballpark to start off here. What are we thinking about Merrill Kelly and Kyle Gibson in this matchup? Roughly a pick 'em here.
Yeah, like you said, I do like the under 9.5 as a lean. I also look at the Rangers in this matchup. I look at Merrill Kelly. Kelly struggled on the road last season, went 6-9 with a 5.42 ERA, and lefties hit him with a 274 average last season. Kelly hasn't faced any Rangers, but pretty high FIP in comparison to Gibson. Gibson allowed lefties to hit 288 last season. The D-backs have plenty of lefties in their lineup as well. So, yeah, it's a tough matchup for me. I think the Rangers have a slight edge, but again, that's why we left it up to the chat to give us this game because this is a game I don't have a play on, and it's a pick 'em for a reason.
No, you're exactly correct. It's kind of interesting when it plays out. Still a lot of factors that I want to see, as I said, how that ballpark plays out, who's coming up at bat at that point. Let's keep it going here. A couple guys asking, and we had a decent game last night. The Mets, I believe that game, I'm not looking at the exact final score, was a 7-4 final where that over-under opened up at 10.5 and closed at 11.5, squarely in the middle. So again, shopping around SPRodds.com, getting the absolute best price is going to save you money in the long term. If we take a look at the Mets today, Peterson versus Hall, two lefties on the mound. We have that high total again. Yesterday, we saw it open up at 10.5. They said, forget about that. Let's just go with 11.5 and let it roll. And it's 11.5 across the board. If we take a look at Hall, the lefty, a 5.0 xFIP from last year. Didn't have a whole lot of batters, a little bit over 100 batters he faced, but got blitzed from the left-hand side. So if we're looking from a Mets perspective, that's McNeil, Conforto, Cano, and Nimmo having a chance to light him up. And not many, I can't really get too many stats. I don't know if there's anything from last year for the New York Mets pitcher, Peterson, coming in, the lefty. But look, we're talking about an atmosphere where the ball travels in Boston. Two pitchers, a little bit questionable. Yeah. But then again, we're not at Coors Field where like the 11.5s are always going to be in play. 6-6, you got to get to try to get that done, Jason. Is that something you play around with where you say, you know what, 11.5 is just too much? Let me leave that out. Or, hey, if that's the number, we might as well find some value in it either way, over or under.
Yeah, and I think we've seen how the Red Sox have pitched and performed this entire season so far, and their pitching is just awful. And you can expect Matt Hall to have a pretty bad performance as well. Didn't start a game last season, just 16 appearances last year as well, with a 7.71 ERA and a 5.19 FIP. David Peterson, there's a lot of hype around him. He's a former first-round pick of the Mets, will be making his first start of his career with the Mets here. There's a lot of hype surrounding him. I think that Peterson will perform in this one. I do definitely think that he's a better matchup, for the Mets over the Red Sox. So my biased opinion here is the Mets will win this game. With Peterson on the mound, again, he's a former first-round pick with a lot of hype surrounding him. Before Peterson, they had Corey Oswalt that was going to potentially get the start, but he just got optioned after poor relief pitching the other night. So, I would go with the Mets here as a lean. I'd also look at potentially maybe the Mets on the over team total. If that's around 5.5 or 6.5, not entirely sure. I think the Mets their offense will start to figure it out versus the Red Sox. You saw them score 7 runs in their first game. The Red Sox, their bullpen is just atrocious. They did nothing to help it out. Now you got a guy, Matt Hall, starting, who never started a game last season. Mets all the way for me as a lean.
Thank you, guys. 280 people watching live right now. 61 thumbs up, 61-0. As I always like to say, Oklahoma versus Kent State in the chat box there. We do appreciate that, all the love and support that you guys give out here. And how about this one? You ask and you shall receive. Patty's 1996. Would love to know your thoughts on the Pirates versus Brewers, guys. Leaning towards the Pirates here. The only problem with me taking a look at this game, and I stayed away, I was really close just because of overall numbers, getting the team total hovering in that 5.5 range. I think Milwaukee should be able to touch up Derek Holland, because when we take a look overall at Holland's numbers, just to be simple, last year 5.23 as an xFIP overall. Right-handed batters absolutely destroyed him. And the projected lineup tonight for those Brewers only has one lefty in it, and that lefty could probably do all right, and named by Christian Yelich. The rest are anticipated to come from the right-hand side. They should do some damage, but again, yesterday, is it one of those where the Pirates get out in the 7th, they're like, oh my God, I lost my money, only to come back and make it happen? I stayed away, but I was really close to taking that Milwaukee Brewers team total over here, Jason.
Yeah, now a lot of you guys know, we covered the KBO and the MPB earlier before the MLB began. Josh Lindblom, he's from the KBO, played for the Deucin Bears, went 20-3 last season in 30 starts, had a 2.5 ERA in those starts for the Deucin Bears, and helped them win a championship last year. Now he's back with the Brewers. Of course, the Brewers love their KBO guys, getting Thames when he came out of the KBO as well. So, they really appreciate those guys, and they do perform when they come out of the KBO. As you saw, Thames had a really great season when he came out of the KBO as well. I like Josh Lindblom. I think he'll pitch well back in the MLB with the Brewers. A lot of talent, obviously, when he was in the KBO. So when we're talking about Derek Holland with a 6.08 ERA and a 6.1 FIP, that's atrocious. I like the Brewers in this matchup as well. Again, for me, the Brewers now, I saw that we're around -180, so a little high for me at this point, just knowing what the Pirates can do. what we saw yesterday, it scared me a little bit, not just a little bit, a lot of bit, going up to a 5-1 lead in the ninth inning. We got lucky, really lucky, but I don't know if I can take the Brewers at minus 180 now after that done of a performance in the first 8 innings last night.
Yeah, lucky or good doesn't matter as long as the cash piles up in your pocket. So you take it any way you can get it here. Now's the time of the show we like to give out the time that we're going to make some plays here, our bankers and best bets of the day, where we think we can certainly put more money in your pocket. I'm going to go back to the well. Sometimes when the eating is good and the lineup matches up from what I like, I'm going to go ahead and do it the same exact number, 4.5 for the Chicago Cubs team total over. It's a little pricey at $5 at minus 130, but I do think it's worth it. If we take a look at Maile on the mound, what he struggled with last year, and that's really all we have to go off of, were left-handed batters. A weighted on-base average to lefties of 364, an ISO of 248. And if you look at the lineup here for the Chicago Cubs, Rizzo, Schwarber, Hayward, Caratini, Kipnis, and Happer all estimated to be in the lineup tonight, all left-handed batters. I think they'll do damage. And what I talked about with Jason earlier, the things I like about these matchups, both teams can run. If one gets out there 3-4-0, the other one can chase them down. So if you get that 4-4 game in extra innings, that's plus money in your pocket. I'm going right back to the well tonight. Give me the Chicago Cubs team total over 4.5. Jason, take it away with your best bets and bankers tonight.
Yeah, I love that play, but for me, I lost all my nails. You want to look at my nails? I lost all my nails after that game. So staying away from the Cubs and Reds game. But for me, I like the Blue Jays and Nationals under 5.5 in the first 5 at minus 105. I'm also looking at the Cardinals at plus 133. Looking at the Dodgers at minus 129, and that is my banker play of the day. So the Dodgers minus 129 are my banker. I'm also looking at over 9.5 for the Rockies and Athletics game, and I got the Mariners and Angels over 9. So those are my 5 plays for the day. Usually I like to go with maybe one more, so maybe I'll add one more later on. But yeah, I got my 5 official plays already for the show. Usually doesn't happen, so I'm ahead of schedule today, which is awesome. But yeah, those are my 5 plays.
There we go. We're ready to go. I'm Donnie Seymour on Twitter at RightSideVP. He's Jason Radowitz. Same name. Just go Jason_Radowitz. Thank you for tuning in for the Major League Baseball show on sportsbookreview.com. One more time, we do thank you for the love. 78 likes in the checkbox. 280 people still watching the show live. We do thank you for the support. We'll be right back again tomorrow on Wednesday, 1:30 p.m. to break down the full Major League Baseball card. Good luck with your wagers, and thanks for tuning in today.